Hi, everybody. Welcome to Fantasy Baseball on Deck. I'm Austin, as usual, and this is part two of the most valuable videos that I share with you throughout the whole season. And specifically with this video, I'm going to teach you or share with you how I evaluate pitchers. And pitchers are an interesting breed of people in general. But before I say anything else, I want to give you sort of the three columns of my goals essentially for this video and like what you'll walk away with. So column number one, I want you to understand how to use my cheat sheet. So that'll be within the comments. And if you already know how to use the cheat sheet, you're welcome to fast forward or whatever. But essentially the cheat sheet is going to mirror exactly what you're seeing on draft day. It's a tool that you'll use side by side to essentially make more confident, better decisions throughout your draft. Column number two is I'm going to teach you how to evaluate pitchers. Oh gosh. Sorry, I thought that I saw something in the window. It was moving, except it was a hair, and I haven't slept a whole lot. I thought there was like someone staring. Okay, that was really scary. Anyways, I am going to teach you how to evaluate pitchers. So I have a rule, three starting pitcher rules to live by in regards to like comparing stats just to see if like someone is viable. And they're kind of no-brainers, but if you haven't seen it before, then it's helpful to sort of like lay them out. As long as you stay within the three rules to live by, you should always have a really, really solid pitching staff. I'm going to teach you how within column two as well. I'm going to teach you sort of how to forecast and differentiate between high strikeout pitchers, balanced pitchers, and as well as control pitchers. In some cases, they're just as effective as each other, but kind of like what do we lean towards? What is the least risky option and why? Again, according to the three rules to live by, which we'll go over. And then column number three, goal overall number three, is I want to highlight the importance of you understanding how your league is scored and the importance of, again, like building a roster that specifically aligns with the benefits and the bonuses that are intertwined within the parameters of your scoring for your league so that you're making the most of the, again, available bonus points and such. So let's jump into them. Let's share my screen. If you go to Fantasy Baseball, the Fantasy Baseball page within ESPN, this is a ESPN Head-to-Head Points channel. This is like my strategies and how I produce or like what I specifically play. But if you go to the ESPN homepage, you go to Fantasy tab, you click Baseball. That'll get you to the homepage, then go to 2024 rankings. 2024 rankings page is going to show you exactly the order in which you're going to be presented all of the players on your draft day. And this is basically just a list of the names, positions, teams, whatever. Very, very basic information. No stats involved, just like the rankings and the possible auction values if you're playing in an auction league. And then as well, if you went over the tab over, so 2024 projections, there's an opportunity to sort of like see the same list, but have some like, the stats from 2023 paired with the projections for 2024 right under it through, for each player, essentially through the top 300. But as you can see, like it's pretty clunky. If you wanted to learn about just a couple different players, I feel like this would maybe be useful. But it's just there's no really easy way to sift and sort through this information. But also, okay, we'll go up to the top. There is a sortable function. So if I hit sortable projections, it brings up all of the projections for the year, but like not using, the variables and the metrics that I'm specifically interested in. So my computer is like pretty slow. It hasn't been restarted in like weeks, but oh, come on, work with me. We're going to sortable projections. It's loading the pictures. So I really need to restart my computer. Gosh, work with me. Come on. So like, it'll show you sortable projections. If I'm interested in innings pitched, hits, earned runs, walks, strikeouts, all these different things. Like maybe that would be useful, but like it's truly not enough information to like make a solid, game plan from. So I create my own. And what does that look like? It's going to mirror this top 300 list essentially, but in a way that's, color coded to be able to essentially like queue and match up with your draft day experience. So let's say that you have my draft tool open and you had it next to, you like had half the screen, your draft tool, half the screen, your actual draft. You're literally going through like, okay, Ronald Acuna Jr., Q, Juan Soto, Q. You're literally queuing up all of the players that I have highlighted in green and sort of like setting up a game plan of how you're going to attack, building your roster as things unfold. The whole point of it is like, let's say that you're absolutely, set on Manny Machado being on your roster at number 54, and it comes up to your fourth pick. Someone reaches and grabs Manny Machado. Other third basemen aren't necessarily there. The whole concept of this is like, there's no need to panic. Though you wanted Manny Machado, you would simply scroll down to find the next third baseman available, and understand that later in the draft, you'll have, I think Royce Lewis is here somewhere. Nolan Jones, Royce Lewis at 121. So 50, 70 spots later, I have a player that I'm extremely confident about. No worries on Manny Machado because Royce Lewis, I think, is going to be incredible this year, right? So that's kind of the whole point. It's like, oh, shoot, just lost out on Manny Machado, but that's okay. I have a third baseman and multiple third basemen coming up later in the draft that I'm, Austin or whatever, you can also be super confident in. So each player has a pretty, I feel like, detailed, written response by me, looking at every single individual player's stats and kind of determining whether or not they're a viable fantasy option, right? So that's essentially like how you utilize the draft tool. The color coding the draft tool, before I forget. So green, it's like Shane Bieber right here. Green with no bolding is just a player that I think you could be confident in drafting at that spot. I think they're a good value for where they're at. Adolis Garcia up here, he's green but bolded. I think that green plus a bolded name means that they're an extremely good value for where they're at. So I think Adolis Garcia should absolutely be a top 100 player. Therefore, I'm going to bold him and know that, that's somebody I kind of plan on maybe even reaching for because he's severely underrated. And then the other option is, like I just kind of mentioned, is Royce Lewis. It's bolded, it's green, and also has a cyan marker over here. A cyan marker means that it's like, to me, where they're at in the draft, it is a can't miss prospect. Like, I'm sad if I don't come away with this player. I'm reaching for these players. I'm making sure that, like, no matter what, I'm prioritizing these guys because I think that they set me up for the best opportunity success given like where they're located in the draft. And then if you go to yellow doesn't necessarily mean, yellow is basically like a good player but scenario. So like Albert Alzolay right here with the Cubs, he seems to get the job done, has a low ERA, low whip, and we're going to talk about how I evaluate pitchers here, ironically, here soon. But like for a top 150 player, there are plenty of opportunities for relief pitchers later in the draft. So I'm happy to let the Cubs pitcher, pass. I don't really care to grab him. If you were a Cubs fan and you really wanted the Cubs closer, I would say yeah, sure, have at it. There's really nothing wrong with them. It's just that there's better, higher ceiling options at this point in the draft. And then red means that I don't necessarily hate the player. It's just that they're like too highly rated, or there's a ton of similarly ranked or similarly talented players at their position later in the draft. Whereas earlier in the draft, like you have to get a second baseman and a first baseman like super early, or else like there are none that I'm confident in throughout the rest of the draft. So like I would have, up there, like I have, who's my first player? in red. So like Alex Bregman, like I mentioned, like Royce Lewis, I think is going to be incredible at the 120 slot. So like Alex Bregman at 30, happy to pass on for a number of reasons, but like mostly because third baseman's pretty loaded, and he mostly succeeds via not striking out on us, and so like not incurring negative points instead of really like separating himself by being an offensive juggernaut kind of thing. So multiple reasons, but overall not taking that player in any situation if they're red and or like if they're injured, whatever. There's lots of reasons. So I got that pretty quickly, 10 minutes. Okay, so how to evaluate starting pitchers is what we're going to do. This is the value of kind of following my channel on YouTube, being Fantasy Baseball on Deck, is that I try to not only give you guys super, valuable, honest information. The best part is that like I try to be as transparent as possible. I provide you tools that I built myself with explanations that I built myself. And as long as you kind of like follow the rules that I set in place, you can always reason like why I made the decision or why I said the thing that I did, so that we can always have more valuable and engaging conversations back and forth. But also like when you're not watching this video or you're not watching, YouTube videos, wherever you get your YouTube videos for fantasy baseball, like you can make more confident decisions on your own in your free time when it comes to your roster. And you don't have to like, ask anyone for advice. You just like have these instilled values in your head because you're following my starting pitcher rules to live by, or, whatever, fill in the blank. So first thing I want to go over is the importance of the yellow highlighted columns where our independent values are. And this is the beginning of our starting pitcher rules to live by. So the thing I always look at first is innings pitched and strikeouts. Innings pitched, strikeouts. You want, how I always draft, in very few cases, I don't go this way, but like no matter what, you want more strikeouts than innings pitched. You always want this number on the left to be smaller than the number on the right. And that is essentially making sure that less batters are on the base paths, less batters are putting balls into play. If you have in every single fantasy league, let's just like say that there's not like crazy bonuses involved. Per out, per strikeout is a 200% difference per out throughout the entire year. So high strikeout pitchers just have the higher ceiling opportunity to score points. They have a larger margin for error, and they also are just, again, like keeping less people. There's less people on the base paths in general. Therefore, less runs incurred and different things. It really like works hand in hand. At the same time, WHIP is very important. So walks and hits per innings pitched is what WHIP stands for. And this WHIP ratio does not have any color coding to it unless there's a player that is over the 1.20 threshold. And to me, the 1.20 threshold, I came up with this, no one told me, but like as long as you are below 1.20 WHIP, you're good. So far the rules are you need to have more strikeouts than innings pitched. So this number needs to be bigger than this number less than that number. WHIP needs to be below 1.20. If not, you have this highlighted red, very, very simple, not trustworthy, too many people on the base paths, whatever. And then as long as the ERA, which is ERA is a little harder to take credit for. Players who have crappy WHIP sometimes have good ERAs. It's just that they had really good defenses and things worked out. Like it's a little more subjective, but as long as your pitcher has an ERA of 3.99 and lower, anything in the threes and lower, it's acceptable. Obviously, the closer you get to zero, the better. But like anything in the fours and up, like it's a pitcher that's not worth having. And that is the end of the starting pitcher rules to live by. Innings pitched, less than strikeouts. WHIP, less than or equal to 1.20. ERA less than or equal to 3.99, and you guys will be honestly golden with any of your pitching selections. As long as you just memorize and really lean into those rules, you'll be great. So let's go into comparing some players just to sort of like get this thing rolling. So I'm going to filter by fantasy. Oh, sorry. I should go through the dependent variables that are not important that kind of ruin everything in regards to evaluating pitchers. So I talked about the importance of having more strikeouts than innings pitched, a whip of 1.20 or less, and then also an ERA of 3.99 or less. The other things that I want you to not focus on at all specifically are wins and losses. And if you've been with me for the last couple of years, I've harped on this a bunch. A pitcher is a pitcher. He has no opportunity to control how many runs he gets in support, and the opportunity, the bonuses for a win at the end of a game does not outweigh the efficiency of like how he individually does throughout the entirety of the game. So as for an example, like Logan Webb was the fourth most individually productive pitcher last year and had a losing record. Like that's not on him. That's just, he didn't get run support. And like, we ignore those. Again, wins and losses mean nothing to us. So when you're looking at this, this tab, which I use all the time, like the most important tab that you're going to use is this cyan, turquoise, whatever, which is fantasy points of 2023 actual value. Actual value meaning that I added 5 points into their score for every loss that they had, and every win that they earned, I took away 5 points to make sure that wins and losses are negated. Just like take them away. What is each pitcher's value without the team around them, sort of thing. It doesn't include the inefficiencies in defense. So like the White Sox historically like bad defense. The Phillies have a slow defense. There are some teams that sort of like struggle, or pitchers that like I can't really put a number value to their defensive efficiency behind them. But again, like I specifically just want to take out the offensive side of things. So what that is essentially this number is how many points do they incur, not including wins and losses. That's great. The actual value factor here is just nominating, or like quickly showing you that there are pitchers that have losing records, and here's how many more points they would have scored if they simply didn't have a losing record. If they were 500, this is what they would have scored. And then over here, these two cyan columns at the very end, actual value per innings pitched. So and then also actual value for like a projected 180 innings. So these are essentially the same number. Like no matter which one you filter by, it's going to be the same order. But this is a good tool to utilize if you are looking to project the value of a player who had his innings restricted last year. So like, for example, and we're going to go into all this, but like yeah, that's good. Okay, so like a player like Ryan Pepiot or Tyreek Skubal, who were both really, really young guys, didn't get a lot of opportunities, innings pitched. These are sort of like ways that we can uncover really young talent before they get the reins, before they're ranked super high. So, their value per innings pitched, how efficient are they, is kind of like what we're doing across these two columns at the end. So I'll now go into comparing some players. The fantasy points tab is including wins and losses, and it's not negligible, right? Because if you have a player that's pitching for the Braves, you're most likely going to earn more points than the same talented player who's pitching for the Royals, just because of run support and whatever. But that's not something I want to focus on, and it's not something I want you guys to focus on, because it's not something that we can predict, right? So I want to go over two early round starting pitchers that have like the same, like similar actual value, but one has quality strikeouts and one is an elite strikeout pitcher, and kind of the difference between those two guys. So I'm going to filter by just regular fantasy points. And I'm going to go down and I'm going to compare Freddie Peralta and Aaron Nola. So both players have pretty similar stats across the board, except for Freddie Peralta has a good set of volume, so 165 innings, like that's pretty good. His first year back, like kind of being fully healthy. Aaron Nola always has great volume, so we're comparing two players who differ in volume, but one has an elite strikeout rate, and the other one has a good strikeout rate. So stay with me here. I might not be doing the absolute best at explaining this, but Freddie Peralta, 165 innings, Aaron Nola, 193 innings. So almost 30 inning difference between the two of them. Freddie Peralta, 210 strikeouts compared to Aaron Nola's 202 strikeouts. So that is a K per nine difference of 9.4 compared to 11.44. 11.44 strikeouts per 9 innings is elite. That's incredible. Aaron Nola, 9.41 is acceptable. That's good. It's good that we're excited about that sort of thing. And then we go to the whip. So the whip for Freddie is 1.12. Whip for Aaron Nola is 1.15. Those are similar. The whip is similar, as well as the ERA. Not as focused on the ERA with Nola because his other numbers were good. So like his strikeout numbers are good and his whip is good. Therefore, his ERA. Sometimes we can disregard the ERA as long as the whip and the strikeouts are good. Whereas like if the strikeouts and the ERA is good, but the whip is up, then we expect that like ERA also to shoot up. It's just a matter of time. If we look at Freddie Peralta, the whip is pretty much the same. Strikeouts, 3.86 is okay. Like it's doable, right? The difference in kind of the comparison that I'm trying to illustrate here is that Freddie scored 12 more points in across this past fantasy baseball season with 30 less innings pitched. The difference is let's just say that they have like similar ERAs, like kind of disregarding the ERAs, the whip is the same, but that difference in strikeout percentage is kind of everything in this regard, because again, Freddie, 30 less innings pitched overall out there on the mound. Like he was out there 5 less times, 5 less starts than Aaron Nola, and ended up scoring 12 more points. That's really it kind of shows the power of having an elite K per 9 strikeout rate compared to a good K per 9 strikeout rate, as long as you're you're meeting all of the expectations within the rules the starting pitcher rules to live by, right? Okay, so that is the comparing Aaron Nola and Freddie Peralta. Aaron Nola being number 18 overall in this upcoming draft. So if you go like your sheet, number 18. It was Aaron Nola. I gotta adjust it. Anyways, Aaron Nola is somewhere over here. Aaron Nola is down at 25, but Aaron Nola 25. Let's say Freddie Peralta is still at number 39. Freddie Peralta is a better value later in the draft because he's more efficient. He's earning more points, essentially per attempt, per batter than Aaron Nola. So that's like a kind of something, or a way that I illuminate value, kind of hidden value. So the next one we're going to look at is kind of the importance of drafting within the rules to live by standards. So I just talked about how important strikeouts are, but let's go to our starting pitching evaluation. I'm going to filter by just regular fantasy points, and I'm going to scroll down. I'm going to find Kyle Bradish and Kodai Senga, and not thankfully, unfortunately, both of these guys are hurt, so it's not the best example, but stick with me. So Kyle Bradish and Kodai Senga last year had pretty much the exact same volume innings pitched. Kodai Senga had an elite 10.95 strikeouts per 9 innings, so he had almost 40 more strikeouts than he had innings pitched. That's incredible. Whereas Kyle Bradish had an equal amount, so 100 right at 9, essentially, like 168 innings pitched, 168 strikeouts. The difference is that Kyle Bradish had a very, very good whip at a 1.04. Kodai Senga had a 1.22 whip, so just 0.2 over our rules, essentially, with the same exact number of wins and losses, and you see that even with Kodai Senga throwing 40 more strikeouts than around 40 more strikeouts than Kyle Bradish with the same exact volume, Kyle Bradish came out on top by 4 points. Like, this is the importance of making sure that you're within the innings pitched, or like the strikeouts over innings pitched, the WHIP, and the ERA, making sure that you're staying within those rules. Because even though Kodai Senga was elite, super awesome with his strikeout rate, because of that 1.22 WHIP over that 0.20, even by a tenth of a hundredth of a decimal, like, you can see kind of the impact that had on the overall points scored, even given that they had the exact same wins and losses. So I thought that was interesting, and kind of like an easy way to illustrate the importance of making sure that you're drafting players that, like, seriously are within our starting pitcher rules to live by. And I will show you later. I lead every league I've ever played in. I lead in innings pitched and strikeouts. And instead of my starting pitchers are always an asset, instead of, they're never, ever a liability. Negative points never happen for me. Therefore, I'm less likely to incur losses because I'm not working against myself. This is just one way to stay ahead of the game. So another thing that now we're going to filter by fantasy points by 2023 value, actual value. So we're going to take out the wins and losses, and we're going to look at the maroon colored players. And essentially I have this is like uncovering hidden value for no innings pitched restriction players. So like high volume, these guys aren't necessarily going to kill it with the strikeout rate ratios. And there's, like, I said that this is like, if you have to have all three kind of thing, but there are some scenarios where some control pitchers are so efficient that the strikeouts don't have to be exactly there. Similar, like what I'm showing, like the Logan Webbs and the Chris Bassett's and the like the Justin Verlanders of the world, who don't incur a lot of strikeouts at this point, the George Kirby's, but they're so efficient. There's so much just soft contact rate. They're not walking anyone. They're so efficient that they stay in ball games longer and have more abilities to earn bonus points and bonus quality volume points, like wins and quality starts and those sorts of things. So overall, Logan Webb, he's ranking right now at, like, for the draft, is he's number 20th overall, but his actual value was 4th in scoring this past year. Zach Eflin's pre-rank is 65. His actual value was 14th overall. Chris Bassett's pre-ranked value in the draft is 70. His actual value, like what points he scored this past season, just through, like, again, 200 innings, is 16th overall. And then a player like Mitch Keller, he's ranked 88th, but he finished 25th. No, Mitch Keller needs to get his WHIP and his ERA down. I think that he had some luck with in regards to wins a lot took away that. But anyways, Mitch Keller, volume and strikeouts, is able to sort of power through barely into the top 25. But that's a player, again, he's ranked 88th and is in the top 25. He's the least exciting person you'd want to invest into in regards, but you see what I'm saying. And then we're looking to now uncover, we're looking to use the Scion columns. And this is how I attach a value to a player like Tyreek Skubal, who only had 80 innings pitched last year, but was untouchable. Or like a Ryan Pepiot, whatever, who is only had 42 innings pitched, but was extremely, extremely efficient, right? So this is, again, gathering the fantasy value without wins and losses per player, per innings pitched. So you're really going to grab and, like, again, be able to highlight the guys that have their volume restricted because they're just super young. So uncovering these guys before they get super popular is obviously important, and kind of like how I always am ahead of the game when it comes to pitching. Because, again, Tyreek Skubal coming into this year, he's 43rd ranked overall, but his actual value per innings pitched across all pitchers is sixth. Ryan Pepiot, and honestly, it's sixth, but like at the same time, like Woodruff's not pitching, Armstrong's not pitching, DeGrom's not pitching, Springs isn't pitching. Skubal's the number one available pitcher coming into the season per innings pitched. Like that's an incredible value at number 43. But how many innings is he going to be allowed to throw? That's kind of like it gives us the ability to assign a value and make a confident decision based on kind of what's available. Ryan Pepiot is the 183rd overall ranked player in the draft. He was 9th overall. And again, like Boyle, Miller, and Chavez are so he's number 2, actually. Sorry, I messed this up. Number 3 is Blake Snell, and he's ranked 47th overall in the draft. Michael King is 20th, or I guess, let's say top 15 in overall production per inning pitched, but he's 153rd overall in the draft. And then a player like Yuri Perez is 26th, or like top 20, and he's ranked 73rd. So these are kind of ways that I utilize and kind of manipulate these stats to find the diamonds in the rough that haven't had an opportunity to shine just yet due to trying to protect their arms, their assets for the future, which is understandable, right? And then the very last part is I want to talk about the guys that are kind of like a George Kirby, Justin Verlander, Logan Webb, the control pitchers. And I'm going to filter by the 2023 actual volume, and I'm going to focus on just the fact that, like, in the top 30, so across these top 30 pitchers, only 7 of them have, all of them have, for the most part, like they match every like rule, but only 7 of the top 30 have less strikeouts than innings pitched. So 23% of the top 30 pitchers have less strikeouts than innings pitched. And that to me means that like they have a better opportunity to like earn those volume bonuses. Like if you get a bonus in your league for quality starts, a complete game, wins, or whatever, then like they can be serviceable. But that just means overall, if it's 23%, only 23%, that means that like they have a way smaller margin for error. They're less able to kind of dig themselves out of trouble if things start to go wrong because their game is really based on that soft contact. So making sure that you're having, again, more strikeouts than the next pitch is so important because, again, less a batter swinging and missing. That is just another ball that's not into the field of play. With the base running rules and the pitch clock and different things, just so important. So there are a couple unicorns, again, like the Logan Webbs and the George Kirbys at the very top are reliable because they are so good at their placement with their pitch placement. But like if they're off at all and they start giving up hits, they have less of the ability to dig themselves again out of trouble. So that's pretty much the end of the video. I was going to show you guys the importance of kind of understanding your bonuses per league. So innings, this one's kind of a wonky league, and kind of what I want you to focus on is like innings pitched is like it's 2 points per put out, but per strikeout is 3 points. So per strikeout essentially is plus 5 points to my team. And I mean, that's a huge, huge freaking bonus, right? So if I go to the standings of like just last year and how I did, I'm going to scroll over and highlight strikeouts and like knowing that I'm always going to be ahead in strikeouts, I'm always going to be ahead in innings pitched, finish first in the league. This other league, pretty like is more traditional. There's like not really anything weird. Wins are 5 points, losses 5 points, saves 5. Like there's nothing like really too like specific and easy to like latch onto from a bonus perspective. But I mean, the point is that if a strikeout is worth 1 point and a put out is worth 1 point, every strikeout is a plus 200% advantage compared to the latter, right? So still setting myself for self up for major success in that regard too. Yeah, finishing first place, but again, as always, promised no chance ever anyone is ever going to have more strikeouts than me. And as long as I stay within my rules, like more strikeouts and innings pitched, more a whip of 1.20 or less, and an ERA of 3.99 or less, I am golden. So thank you guys for taking the time to spend this with me. I really look forward to any and all feedback. And guys, happy baseball season. It's right around the corner. But anywho, that's all I got for you. So bye-bye.